Coach Montgomery, let's talk a little bit about the week in review here. First of all, last weekend down at Natchitoches, playing in Northwestern State's tournament, you went 4-1. I know coming off the weekend before where we were 0 in Hattiesburg, you had to be really pleased with how your team bounced back this past weekend.
We did. We raised the level of intensity and enthusiasm, and I felt the energy was fantastic. It's one of the things we've been missing. We were looking to start incorporating into our games. I felt they did a great job of that. Maybe a little drained come Sundays after the two emotional wins against Louisiana, Monroe, and against Northwestern State. So we stumbled a bit going 1-1 on the last day, but I felt like it was good energy, it was good enthusiasm, and I think we're raising the level of our play, and that's good to see.
Well, your bats really got going that weekend. I think as a team you hit almost 400 during those 5 games, and that was good to see.
It was, especially with the extra base hits being mixed in. I think that made a difference. Instead of 3 singles, we had 2 singles and a double, or we'd have a single and a home run and a triple. I mean, and that makes run scoring a lot easier.
I know that obviously your first year at Louisiana Tech, but you've been in the North Louisiana area for a long time. It's been a couple of years since Louisiana Tech played Louisiana Monroe. Always kind of a big rivalry when those two schools get together in anything. Leading up to that weekend, how many times did you have people come up to you and say something about just make sure you beat Louisiana Monroe?
I think more in this building than anywhere else. But the girls know. I mean, there's a culture here, and that is part of who we are. I mean, that's a rivalry. They're 30 minutes away, and it's a shame we don't play each other during the regular season, and that's unfortunate. But the ability or the option to run into them in a tournament, we reminded them who we are and what our expectations were, and they came out with flying colors.
Northwestern State, the win against them, that's a good team. They're 17-3 right now, and that snapped their 11-game winning streak. And, of course, they had beaten us twice the weekend before.
Yeah, and one of the 2 games was close, the other one not so much, but we learned a little bit about who they were, and we learned a little bit more about who we are and what we needed to do to try to beat them. And I thought we put a good matchup on the field. I honestly think the second game would have been much closer, that 6-0 game on Sunday, had we not ended up having that one bad inning where we made a couple of mistakes that gave them their 4 runs.
Then you went to Stephen F. Austin midweek game, went out there, and you got a pretty good pitching performance from 3 of your pitchers. I know you'll talk a little bit about how you use them, but unfortunately just couldn't get the bats going in a 1-0 loss.
Well, I don't want to ever be one to complain about officiating or situations, but I do feel like the zone was a little bit tough. We have like 5 or 6 backwards Ks. They have 0. I mean, there were some things that just didn't add up, but it is what it is. We can't make excuses. We got to find ways to win those games. What we did was have a great pitching performance, kind of the way we wanted to. I mean, from the way I thought we would pitch early on this year. We started with Michelle. She gave us the 4 solid innings. We brought Jana in for a couple innings, and then Melanie was able to come in and give us a good closing kind of performance. And then we got the tying run thrown out at the plate on a bang-bang play that took a perfect throw. So while we lost the game, I feel like we did everything we could have to try to win it. And so, again, I'm very process-oriented, and that was a great process to be a little, on the road, hostile environment. Certainly felt that way during the game, and then to fight through some obstacles and then still find a way to be right there at the end of the ball game. I think that's great progress.
You were a bit of a scorekeeper's nightmare in that game, and you said afterwards you thought that would probably be you would do that quite a bit this year. You really got a lot of the kids involved in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, and I think we have to really maximize who we are. There's lots of individual roles on this team that will help us achieve our team goal, and we try to tell them that now. There's no role more important than the goal. But that being said, the individual roles will help us gain our goals. So when you see Melanie start in right field and then come off the field and somebody else go into right field, but then Melanie comes back in the game to pitch, I mean, that's an advantageous matchup that we can throw at somebody. The same with Jana, starting at third base, gives way to Haley Winter for an inning at third base, only to go back in the game and pitch 2 quality innings. Michelle starting the game pitching, but then sliding over to third base. I mean, I don't try to invent this team. We are who we are because of what's here. We're just going to maximize them in their best efforts to try to pull out a W.
And you mentioned Melanie Goff. Obviously, this week was her first week back, and obviously it's going to take her a little time to get back to live pitching. But what did she add for you this week?
Well, she brings a presence, first and foremost. The kid steps up to the bat or to the plate every time, and the expectation is that she's going to come through. It doesn't matter what the situation is. And you can feel it. And I think that becomes contagious. I honestly will attribute some of our offensive success to Melanie's presence, whether or not she performed at the level I think she's capable of or she thinks she's capable of. I still feel like she has a presence that was felt on the team that makes the entire team better.
This weekend you go down to Baton Rouge. You're going to play 3 games against Southern. What do you kind of hope to get out of this?
Well, right now Southern's struggling, but we got here late. This was an opening weekend. We tried to fill it with the best we could, and at that time there weren't many options. We're going to go down, and we're going to make this weekend all about us. It's 100% about us. And what we want to try to do is we want to make every hustle play that we can. And we're going to make every diving play that we can. We're going to turn every double play that we can. If they don't try to turn the double play or somebody does not make the effort, then we're going to make changes because we're trying to get the last couple of steps that we need to take before we enter conference play done. And this is a great opportunity for us to do that just by raising our own bar as to what we can be when we take the field.
And what do you anticipate as far as using your pitchers?
Well, I don't know that it'll be quite like Stephen F. Austin, but I do think you'll see some mixing and matching throughout the game, only because I don't necessarily want to ask somebody to throw the full 7 innings if we don't have to. We also want to get Anna some more innings this weekend, so instead of her getting her 1 here, 1 there, I think this may be the game we try to get 2 out of her in one game and maybe 1 out of her in another game. So she's starting to be asked to do a little more. And then put all that together, and I think you'll still see, nobody go more than about 5 innings.